Hey everyone, and welcome back to Deep Dive Destinations. Today I'm taking you on an exciting solo day trip from Tokyo's Machida to the beautiful Mount Takao. If you're looking for a quick escape from the hustle and bustle of Tokyo, Mount Takao is the perfect destination. Stick around as I share my journey, tips for making the most of your trip, and some breathtaking views from the top. Depending on where you're coming from in Tokyo, depends on how you get there. I came from Machida, so I took 2 trains to get there. If you're coming from downtown Tokyo, it'll probably take you an hour, a little over an hour to get there. After I got off the train at that station, it's only about a 10-minute walk, and I basically just followed the crowd and checked out Google Maps to make sure I was going in the right direction. I do recommend, something I didn't do was get water before I started the walk. There are some vending machines on the way as well as at the top, but I recommend bringing water because there's a lot of stairs. There are 2 or 3 options to get up the mountain. One is you can just walk it. 2 is you can take a train ride up the steepest point of it, and you can also take a chairlift. I got there about 5 minutes before it opened, and they were letting people buy tickets for the train, so I figured I'd just take the train. The actual chairlift itself said it was closed, so I'm not sure if it was closed all day or just until exactly the time it opened. Once I got my ticket, it was already boarding for the other train, so I got in line for the next train. It was pretty quick. I think it was like a 15-minute wait, and then we were on the train. I was one of the first people on the train, and I saw in the reviews to go up front. There's no seating right at the front window, you have to stand there. And then I started feeling really self-conscious, maybe I'm not supposed to, but then I was looking down and there were bars and I was like, okay, this has got to be a place where people stand. And if the train gets full, then people will go to the front. So I was trying to talk to myself, it's okay, you can be in the front. But that part just felt embarrassing because I thought I was the foreigner who just got in everybody's view. There are windows everywhere, but obviously there's only so many front windows that you can stand in front of. I tried to make myself as small as possible, and I stood there with what felt like an eternity. It was probably 3 minutes, and then finally, as more people boarded, more people went up front, so I wasn't the only person up front. It all sounds ridiculous talking about in retrospect, but honestly, I was just feeling so embarrassed in the moment. The train does get really steep, so you do have to hold on as it's going upwards, and I couldn't use both of I wanted to record on my phone as well as the other camera, but I ended up just having to put my phone down because it was so steep. I had to hold on or I was gonna fall back. The view going up the mountain in the train was really nice, and it was also really cool when we passed the other train. It was just a cute little moment. I didn't think I would need a map, but in retrospect, I would have definitely gotten a map because I didn't technically ever get lost, but there were a lot of options on which direction to go. You'll come to forks, and I just ended up following some people hoping they wanted to go to the top of the mountain, and luckily I did make it, but get a map because there are a lot of options. Since the cable car does take you up a good portion of the mountain, once you get off, there's a nice lookout point that you can see. Right when you start your walk, there's a bunch of little shops right there, but none of them are open. I think they probably open later in the day. I went on a weekday and I went right when it opened in the morning, but there were still a lot of people already out, already there. There were runners, there were people who actually hiked up the mountain and didn't take the cable car, and they were just zooming. The nature, the trees, the ambiance, all of it was just so beautiful and so peaceful. I really appreciated how much people were just walking and not really being loud or talkative. I came up to my first fork and I was completely lost already, and I hadn't been walking that long, but I pulled out Google Maps and I couldn't really figure out which way mattered, so I watched the group in front of me and I figured I'll just follow them whichever way they decide. Basically on the left, there were a bunch of steep stairs, and on the right, there wasn't. So I was hoping they went right, but they totally went left. This was the point when I realized that I didn't have water, and that I probably should have brought water, and also that I was really thirsty. But luckily I did come up to a vending machine, which is kind of crazy to me that like a hiking trail has a vending machine on it, but it was so appreciated and I was so glad to have some water. I thought I had reached the top of the mountain because I saw a lookout area and I was walking through and it just kept going and I was like, I think there's also supposed to be a shrine up here. And yes, there was. So I pretty much just looked around. I saw that there were stairs leading up to the shrine, but I was wondering if that kept going or if I had to walk somewhere else. So I did a bit of wandering, trying to figure that out, and then I saw there was a side path that goes around it, so I kept following that and I came up to another shrine. This also might have been the main shrine because it was so incredibly beautiful. At this point, I didn't really know where I was. I figured I wasn't all the way at the top, so I just kept following people, and I saw there was another set of stairs, and I kept going up. Okay, and this may have been my favorite part of the whole trip, and it's just because I don't speak Japanese. I speak a couple phrase words, and that's it. And so the whole journey, I'm just in my head with a self monologue, and the only person I'm hearing is me. And then all of a sudden, somebody says, "Good morning." Good morning. Obviously, not a big deal, but when you feel like pretty isolated because you don't know the language around you, and someone greets you or is just kind to you and says something in something you understand, I don't know, it felt really, really nice. And then I came up to a large building and I saw there were restrooms and I was like, okay, this either is another checkpoint or maybe I've made it to the top. And I walked a little bit further and sure enough, I had made it to the top. There were several lookout points and it was absolutely beautiful. You could see the mountains and the trees and it just went on forever. once I had got my full looking in and admiration of all the surrounding beauty, I saw there was another trail which looked like, oh, it kept going. And then I was thinking, you know what? It probably loops and I can take that and it'll loop me back. And then I was like, but you don't know that. So I just turned around and I walked the same way I came up. And I looked on Google Maps and I'm pretty sure that just kept going. There are so many trails up here and it can keep going for quite a ways. So I recommend look and see what trails you want to do because you can do a lot of walking. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more travel tips, experiences from around the world. If you've been to Mount Takao or have questions, drop them in the comments below. Until next time, happy travels.